Wait a minute, please.
I, Gabriel Moore, yelled at the back of my female supervisor, Riley, who was going to unlock the wheels of my wheelchair and leave. We were in a place deep in the mountains, with an open view. Riley really wanted to come here and promised to take care of me, so I came here. I doubt I'll be able to descend the mountain without her help. There were far too many dangerous spots for a wheelchair to navigate.
I'll tell everyone that you were quitting.
Wait a minute. That has nothing to do with this.
Riley said she would give me career advice. I told her that because I was in a wheelchair, I hoped to one day leave the company and work somewhere where I could inspire others in similar situations. That seemed to irritate her. Riley, cruelly smirking, gave no sign of turning back, and her body vanished into the mountain.
What should I do? I was at a loss then.
Can I help you?
Someone talked to me. I was annoyed and embarrassed that I couldn't get off the mountain without bothering someone. And when I slowly turned around, wait a minute, are you? I was surprised by the person who spoke to me. I had been crippled since birth.
You might be able to walk someday. So let's do our best for rehabilitation. That's what my mom always told me, but it was my legs, and I was extremely familiar with them. By the time I was in elementary school, I had already given up on walking.
But my mom didn't want to give up, so we went from one hospital to another. And she even bought strange religious equipment. My dad eventually abandoned us, and we became isolated since he was constantly borrowing money from all our family. As a kid, I lived a hopeless life. However, I was encouraged by a woman of the same age whom I knew from the internet. Her name was Victoria White, and she appeared on TV from time to time. She lost one of her legs in an accident, but she was so strong that you wouldn't know. She loved the outdoors. On her blog, you can watch her doing things like mountain climbing and river rafting. Of course, I love her.
Of course, I knew I was only viewing a little portion of her life, but it gave me courage. I realized that I could enjoy my life more. One time, Victoria appeared on TV for an interview.
Now I realize that by simply changing my mindset, I can have fun no matter who I am.
I wondered how I could live as vividly as she did, despite the fact that she was the same age as me and was not born disabled. As I thought about this, I had become a complete fan of Victoria. She was shining brighter than any famous people. Victoria's presence encouraged me, and I began to aspire to have a bright life like hers. That happened when I was in college. Until then, I blamed my mom somewhere in my heart. I gradually came to accept the fact that I was born with a limp. Besides, my mom was desperate because she was worrying about me. Every time I came into contact with her comments, she encouraged me to believe that my life may also turn out well, depending on how I thought. And after my job search, I was hired by her company. To be honest, I was startled when I received the letter of employment, and when I told my university classmates about it, they all burst into tears of delight. The company must have had a lot of trouble in hiring me. With one employee in a wheelchair, there was a chance that something unusual would occur. I was more than happy that the company believed in me without considering such risks. Riley Johnson, my immediate boss, was as strict as she appeared.
I'm not going to treat you differently just because you're in a wheelchair. I'll treat you the same as everyone else.
I understand.
My first impression was that she was a reliable boss. Riley, on the other hand, was a hard-working woman who was as dedicated as a male and refused to compromise on her work.
You need to redo this presentation. There's no way this could move people's hearts. This is unacceptable, Gabriel, because it will go over budget.
Riley's constant criticism of my work was discouraging at times, but I decided to take it as a sign that she had high hopes for me. My colleagues said to me,
How do you stand up to Riley? She's scary as hell.
but thanks to her, I was able to learn my job quickly. She grumbled that every year fresh staff left too soon, and her critiques of me did not fade at all. But I was undaunted and worked hard to get the job done. I thought Riley was pleased with my growth, but one day, 6 months after I joined the company, a company trip, including a social gathering, was to be held. At first, I told everyone I would not attend because I was in a wheelchair.
Everyone must attend this company trip, so there are no exceptions.
Since Riley told me that, even though I was anxious to attend the trip, in the end, I decided to participate. However, I had no idea at the time that this decision would later change my life. The first day of sightseeing was simple. While wandering across town, I ate a pretzel and even participated in a handcrafting session. I went to a shooting gallery and ate hot dogs at the beach area. Since my mom did not allow me to go on school excursions, all of this was new to me.
Hey, why don't we climb a mountain tomorrow?
A mountain?
Riley came into my room after supper and suggested this as an activity for our leisure time. Riley claims that because everything is accessible by automobile halfway up the mountain, even a wheelchair user can reach a certain height.
What are you scared of? I'll be with you so you don't have to worry. This is an order from your boss.
I never imagined the day would arrive when I could climb a mountain with this supervisor I respected. I was really encouraged by her. Even so, it was my first time climbing a mountain, so I was nervous. And since I was in a wheelchair, I was very anxious. So after getting in bed, I started to research the mountain on my smartphone. That night, I couldn't sleep properly. The next morning, Riley came to pick me up from my room.
I thought it might be cold on the top of the mountain, so you can use this company's jacket.
She handed me a windbreaker. The windbreaker had a stylish design with the company logo on it, and many people in the company loved it.
I appreciate it. I will take good care of it.
Then Riley said,
Let's get going.
with that, she started pushing the wheelchair. To some extent, the mountain trail was well maintained, although it was difficult for a wheelchair to navigate. The crooked dirt trails made it possible to fall if you weren't careful, and passing past people on the road took a lot of work. Riley must have been getting tired because the higher we climbed, the less we talked. We finally took a break just before reaching the summit. As we sipped water and caught our breath, Riley asked us a question.
Speaking of which department do you want to work in the future? Do you like our department?
I do indeed. I'm not thinking about it too seriously right now. I'm merely preoccupied with the work ahead. But
Perhaps I was overexcited by the odd surroundings of mountain climbing. I regained my breath and began to talk about Victoria, whom I admired.
Actually there is someone I admire. Do you know Victoria White? I want to be like her. I want to be able to encourage people like me. I don't know how to do it though.
So you mean you might leave us eventually?
I don't know that. I am very grateful to the company for hiring me. I'd be able to come on company trips like this, and even climb mountains. I thought I was expressing my gratitude.
Well,
Riley looked somewhat weird. After our break, we headed for the summit, and the view finally opened up. A vast landscape spread out before me, and I couldn't help but let out a voice.
This is insane. Riley, this is unbelievable.
When I looked back at Riley, she was looking down at me with an emotionless expression on her face, and I was acting like a child.
Riley?
this is ridiculous.
Excuse me?
Cold scorn ripped through me. Riley's glare was vicious, a stark contrast to her previous actions. The tension in her expression sent a chill down my spine.
You mentioned that you might leave the company someday, and that you admire someone? That is absurd. Do you have any idea how much I've taken care of you? I thought you were slowing us down because you were in your wheelchair. But at the same time, I thought you had guts, because you didn't give up so easily. I'm disappointed in you, Riley.
Riley, what's going on all of a sudden? I didn't say that I was quitting. And about Victoria?
That's enough. Now I know that you have no guts.
She interrupted me and said coldly, "I'll tell everyone that you are quitting." Riley said so. She was ready to leave me and leave when she turned her back on me.
I won't take care of someone who isn't my staff anymore. Take care.
What do you mean? Wait a minute.
Riley was out of sight faster than I could change my direction. Did I say something bad? We were just having a normal chat a few minutes ago. Did I mention something stupid about the plan or Victoria? More importantly, I didn't understand why she said that I was quitting. Why did she say something so selfish when I hadn't made up my mind? I tried hard to figure out what was bothering Riley, but I couldn't come up with an explanation. Anyway, I had to make my way down the mountain, but I wasn't sure if I'd be able to return the way I'd come. With Riley's support, I was able to make it this far. I had a tense expression on my face as I imagined what would happen if I fell. It was at that time.
Is there something wrong?
You've been looking down for a while now.
For a brief minute, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe I was hearing that familiar voice in such a strange environment. My heart began to beat faster, and I felt as if I were about to cry. A wheelchair slowly came to a halt next to me. I looked up with my heart pounding, and there she was, the woman of my dreams, Victoria. I looked up with my heart pounding, and there she was, the woman of my dreams, Victoria.
Wait a minute, are you...
She asked me again while putting her hair over her ears.
Do you need help?
Actually, Victoria had come that day because the association wanted to consult with her about maintaining the paths on this mountain. Victoria's brother was a member of the association. She stated that her brother intended to include not only the viewpoints of able-bodied individuals, but also those of persons with physical limitations, which is why she was present that day. Victoria was wondering why I was alone and approached me. I explained the situation to Victoria.
What a jerk.
She puffed up her cheeks.
She is not a bad person. It's probably because I said something that made her angry.
Even if that's the case, it's far too irresponsible to just leave you here like this.
Victoria grunted and then...
I got it.
She came up with an idea.
Hey, why don't you join us after this for the filming of the TV show?
Huh?
Victoria and her brother were planning to introduce trail maintenance in a TV show after this.
If others knew how far you've come, they'd be more encouraged. Besides, it must have been pretty hard to climb this mountain, right? The association has asked me to give them some maintenance advice, and I'd like you to answer some questions with me. You're the person I need most right now.
Are you referring to me?
Who else but you? I've got plenty of staff, don't worry. Of course, we're going down the mountain together, so it's not a bad deal for you, right?
Not only did I get to meet Victoria, the woman of my dreams, like this, but I never imagined I'd have the opportunity to inspire someone who is physically handicapped. Of course, I had no hesitation.
I will do it, please.
After meeting with Victoria, her brother, and the rest of the TV staff, we waited for the filming to begin. This filming, by the way, was scheduled to air the next day. This program was obviously going to be viewed by people all around the country, which made me apprehensive. On cue, the videographer aimed the lens at us. I was so nervous and tense, even though I tried to smile.
Relax.
Victoria whispered to me. Soon after, the interviewer turned the microphone to me.
Was there anything that bothered you this time while climbing the mountain?
Well, I guess the part where we passed each other on the winding road near the summit was hard. We were both very cautious. I caused a little bit of problem to the other person.
I wondered if I was giving Victoria the answer she wanted. Such thoughts crossed my mind, but I calmed myself down to follow the meeting.
There was a paved course that was accessible to wheelchair users up to the halfway point. But we are not quite there yet when it comes to the summit. Perhaps we might make climbing wheelchairs available for hire.
Victoria said this to follow up on my words. The interviewer asked me another question.
How did you feel when you climbed this mountain in a wheelchair?
I was extremely proud. I never imagined that I would be able to climb a mountain like this. I am truly grateful to the person who brought me here.
Then, Victoria suddenly said something in response to my words.
He was abandoned. I'm sure it's difficult to descend the mountain alone from here, isn't it?
This was a question that had not been addressed at the prior rehearsal. I panicked, and the interviewer was taken aback as well.
Is that true?
And he pointed the microphone towards me.
Oh well, I came here with my boss from work, but we had a little trouble. As I tried to cover it up, Victoria put a serious face on the camera and said, "We wouldn't have come here if we didn't trust the caregivers, because we are entrusting them with our life." If a person who climbed the mountain with Gabriel is watching this now, please reflect on what you have done and you should apologize firmly to him. Victoria's words made me feel like crying a little. She was right. I came here to climb the mountain because I trusted Riley. And I was really worried when she suddenly left me without understanding what was going on. Thank you, Victoria. I knew she was the person of my dreams. The TV filming ended without incident, and Victoria and I went down the mountain. She drove me back to the hotel, and I thanked her for her thoughtfulness.
Then she replied, "Thank you for your cooperation. You must be tired, right? Please rest well at the hotel, and please keep me updated on what happens." Saying this, Victoria gave me her contact information. "Really, thank you very much." The next morning, the interview scene between me and Victoria was used in a local TV program. However, it was circulated on social media by people reacting to Victoria's comments about me being left behind on the mountain. Furthermore, the windbreaker I was wearing had the company logo on it. Power abused by the boss, leaving a disabled employee on the mountain. It became such a hot topic that it was even been picked up by a morning news program. Naturally, the CEO, employees, and Riley, the person who left me behind, saw it. When I came to work, she apologized with a pale face. "Why did you leave me?" When I boldly asked Riley, she bluntly replied, "New employees always leave the company, even if I do my best to train them. I thought you were different. But when you said it like that, I just lost my temper." My workload and the workloads of my coworkers are increasing because guys like you give up so easily. In other words, she left me on the mountain because she was releasing herself from the unsatisfying feeling of being left at the workplace. But that didn't mean I could forgive her. Because if I had not been saved by Victoria and others, I would not have been able to come back like this. I see. So that was the reason. A few months later, I was explaining to Victoria what had happened. I was happy to join that company, but I resigned after the incident. In actuality, it was a dishonest company that forced employees to work extra for a salary that did not correspond to their additional hours. No matter how hard they tried to train new employees, they quit because they felt confined by the company's terrible environment. It was the first time I was working, and I thought that was normal. However, I learned from the real that this was not the case in the world. So now I'm employed by the company where Victoria's brother works. Enjoy the outdoors.
It's not like I love outdoor activities. However, every time my brother creates a new wheelchair model, he insists on bringing me along to test it.
The backstory behind that amusing blog photo made me laugh. That's why I participate in advising him on wheelchair development too.
My brother's always saying how happy he is that he hired you. He says you have a great work ethic and are extremely dependable when the occasion arises.
Having someone I admire say that to me seemed like a dream come true. I had admired Victoria for a long time and had a vague idea that I also wanted to be of help to someone. I was really sad that I was left behind on the mountain at that time, but it is a strange fate that I met Victoria in this way. I'm taking a step forward with the person I've always admired for the magnificent future that is about to begin.